During the First World War, over 650,000 Canadians enlisted for service in the cause of freedom. Close to 66,000 lost their lives in service to this cause. Every day, thousands of Manitobans drive past their memorials. In every community, these monuments stand in silent witness of the sacrifice that our veterans made to protect our rights and freedoms. In Ottawa and in Winnipeg, outside of the chamber where our legislators meet to make important decisions about our communities and their future, the names of 118,000 men and women are recorded in these books of remembrance. From Manitoba's very first overseas military engagement in 1884, through to the last soldier killed in Afghanistan in 2011, these books serve as a reminder of the immense price paid for freedom and liberty that all Manitobans enjoy. On this important anniversary, we wondered what the voices of these veterans would tell us. What would they say about freedom and about democracy? What would they share with us about the importance of education and the role of local school boards?
Over the course of several months, the Manitoba School Boards Association interviewed several local veterans. Our goal was to hear the voices of those who are still with us today, from the last Winnipeg Grenadier who served in Hong Kong to one of the few remaining Manitobans who fought at the Battle of Kapiong. Every voice had an important story to share. Each interview came with a different perspective. Some chose to go on camera for the interviews. Others preferred that we commit to writing what they had to share. In all of these interviews, there are many common messages. School boards remain an important part of Manitoba's democracy. Democracy comes from the freedoms that Manitobans have. Freedoms like the right to vote, the right of communities to have a say in local decisions, the right to receive a quality education. And in the end, it was these freedoms that these veterans fought for. The 100th anniversary of the end of World War I provides an important opportunity for all Manitobans to remember their sacrifice, to remember what these veterans stood for then, and to remember what they still stand for today.
You know, people talk a lot about freedom in our country. Well, freedom doesn't come with sacrifice, and freedom has responsibility, and freedom is only there because of democracy. And people have to exercise that right, the right of democracy.
We overlook how fragile freedom is, how fragile freedom was then and still is, and how easily that freedom can be taken away. And I think it's to hold the torch high is to respect that freedom, to realize what people gave up for that freedom.
Is making sure we continue to remember, that we hold Remembrance Day, and that we remember all our veterans, living and gone.
Hi, my name is Kathleen McMillan and I'm a school trustee with Pembina Trail School Division. I'm at the Legion House Museum just prior to an important upcoming event, which will be the 100th anniversary of the end of the First World War. Now, my father was the Second World War veteran, and I have a picture of him here. His name was William Ernest Nelson McMillan, and he was with the Fort Garry Horse, a tank commander. And he also spent a great deal of time in Europe and was part of the D-Day assault on Normandy beaches. Now, I was very pleased when I walked in to the museum here today to see this uniform, because this would have been the exact uniform that he would have worn 60, 70 years ago. Now, here is a schematic of the D-Day landing, and these were very important facts that when I was growing up, we were taught at home about the importance of Remembrance Day, and we understood what the Second World War meant to us. I I think it's really important nowadays that we not forget and that we constantly remind ourselves that the freedom of speech, religion, culture that we enjoy here in Canada was not something that came easily. It was a hard-fought battle to maintain that level of democratic freedom in Canada. And I am very honored to be the daughter of a Second World War vet, and I'm very honored to have the responsibility of passing along that information to the next generation. We need to tell our kids that war is not something that we idolize. It's not something that we should have a lot of fun on video games with. I think that we need to impart upon them the importance of the loss that we suffered during the First and Second World War that enabled us to maintain the level of democracy and freedom that we have. So when you're looking at the upcoming date of November 11th, remember to speak to kids about why we have Remembrance Day, the importance of it, the need to respect the fact that we are fortunate to live in a democracy and that we need to thank people who served and continue to serve. We in Canada are very fortunate. One only has to turn on the television to realize that what we have here is what is being fought for in so many countries.
At this time of year, especially as we get into November and approach November 11th like we are right now, it's important as Manitobans that we think about the act of remembrance. We think about the sacrifice of our veterans and those who died in war. Specifically for me, my grandfather was a veteran of the Second World War. For my whole life, Remembrance Day has been very important to me because until he passed away in 2003, we went to Remembrance Day services with him. We went to numerous other Legion events and veterans events with him and had a very keen understanding of what it was to remember and to understand what he and his comrades fought for in the Second World War. As a school board trustee, 8 years ago when I was first elected, I've never really made the connection that I would be talking about his sacrifice as a veteran as a school board trustee and what the two things have to do with each other. As we consider the upcoming provincial review on education, on K-12 education, and we have to grapple with the fact that the government has said that school board amalgamations are on the table and therefore a reduction in the democratic processes that Manitobans engage in as part of school board elections, that connection is very important. Manitoba School Boards Association has, through local voices, local choices, and through the Veterans Voice, done a lot of work to share out the perspective of veterans who believe that any diminishment of democracy or reduction of voice of citizens through democratic vote is very problematic and flies in the face of what our veterans fought to maintain.
Hi, my name is Ed Palache, School Trustee, Seven Oaks School Division, and Board Chair. And today we're here to remember the veterans that fought in many wars, but this one gentleman here, whose name is Jan in Polish, Jan Petrowski, who was with the 2nd Polish Corps attached to the British 8th Army, who had, when the Russians invaded Poland September 17, 1939, was taken to a number of the gulags in Siberia at the age of 15. When the Germans invaded Russia in 1941, Operation Barbarossa, the Polish government in exile in London had an agreement with Stalin to release a number of these Polish people that were in gulags. So Jan made the trek through Iran, Iraq, Palestine, which the Polish Corps was formed under the command of the British 8th Army, going over to Egypt, and then to Italy, where he fought at the Battle of Monte Cassino and the Battle of Bologna. After the war ended, they were decommissioned and they wanted to send a number of these Polish soldiers back to Poland. He refused to go back to Poland because Poland was under communist control, so he made his way to England, Great Britain. From Great Britain, he had signed a contract to work on a tobacco farm in Ontario. After he had paid for his passage, He moved to Winnipeg and was involved with Holy Ghost Parish on Selkirk Avenue and the Royal Canadian Polish Legion 246 on Main Street. And education was very important to John. His son became a pharmacist. George just retired. He's 65. My sister-in-law is an oncology nurse with Healthcare Manitoba, and my wife is a teacher. So education was very important to John and his family. And he was a very proud man. These are a number of the medals that he received. This medal right here is a medal in Polish. Basically, it's for valor on the battlefield. It means happy warrior. And from my understanding, he had taken out a German bunker with a flamethrower at the Battle of Monte Cassino. There's the Monte Cassino Cross. He's got a number of Battle of Bologna and Battle of Monte Cassino, 2 Stars of Italy, and the 2 English medals. Very proud Pole. And if we really don't have it that hard today, we have opportunity, and we have to take those opportunities. Don't never quit. If you want to do something, do it. And he did. Thank you.
There, I'm Kelly Reel, and I'm a trustee with the Swan Valley School Division out of Swan River, Manitoba. Earlier this year, I was very privileged and honored to have been a chaperone for an air cadet trip of 13 young men and women over to the battlefields in Europe. And probably one of my most memorable moments was when we toured the Juno Beach Museum. And when you're at the Juno Beach Museum, the last thing you do is you watch a film, and it's called In Their Footsteps. And the very last scene is a family walking along Juno Beach, and imposed with the family and the children holding hands walking along the ocean side, they have put in the ghosts of soldiers that had passed on that beach walking alongside them. So you see that very last scene, and you walk out and you walk along Juno Beach, and I'm looking at all of these young men and women in their cadet uniforms walking along, and you could see the soldiers walking alongside them. So we all called the kids around, and we had a nice little meeting on the beach, and we asked them to stop and look around, and the gravity of where they were standing, it sunk in. And even all of the students that, had never really even been to a city, let alone have been on an airplane, flown overseas, they all stood there and they said, Remembrance Day will never be the same. And the gratitude and the thanks that they had for our veterans and for all of their sacrifices was so evident. So when we think about our situation today, and our state of democracy in particular, I want to take this moment just to say to those veterans, thank you. Your sacrifices are remembered, your legacies continue, and we are forever grateful.
Students in the Louis Riel School Division have the opportunity to participate in the No Stone Left Alone initiative, which is an initiative that began in Canada in 2011 and partners schools and students across Canada with Remembrance Day ceremonies that take place in actual veterans' cemeteries. So our students quite often will be at the Elmwood Cemetery, and it is a full ceremony of remembrance. But at the end, the students each receive a poppy, and at the end of the ceremony, they move into the cemetery and place a poppy in remembrance for veterans who are there. It's very poignant. It is full of reverence and remembrance, and it's become a real opportunity for me as an adult to be reminded of what's at stake and how much we enjoy in Canada as citizens in terms of the rights and freedoms that we enjoy. When I think about the ceremony and what it means and how we honor those who, many of whom gave their lives to protect what we enjoy today, I'm reminded that not only must we not forget, but we must do whatever we can to protect those rights And in the context of school boards and public education, it's ensuring that students and families and communities have a voice in the programs and services that school divisions individually and collectively are offering that not only afford students opportunities to learn and to grow, but to be successful. And as November 11th approaches, I'm reminded, emotionally obviously, about just how important that is.
On the 100th anniversary of the end of the First World War, now more than ever, Manitobans must take time to remember. As the years pass, our veterans' voices will become fewer and fewer. Remembering their stories and their perspectives is as important as remembering the sacrifices and the service that they gave. For the cause of freedom and of liberty, for democracy and the right of education in every community in Manitoba. On this centennial of the very first Remembrance Day, school boards across Manitoba encourage every citizen to take time to remember.